As usual, Dr. Mervat Madkour, Professor of Political Economy of the Middle East Research and Development. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas
and,
to you and
may you have a
viewers.
prosperous new year.
I hope for everybody and for Egypt in particular.
Hopefully we share the same. Let's delve into the press digest because we have very little time. We're going to start off by Al-Ahram and read from the main banner: no compromises in combating corruption. During the inauguration of extensions of Nasr Company for petrochemicals, the president says the armed forces are part and parcel from the state, and all their economic activities are mentioned. During the inauguration of development process and extensions of Nasr Company for petrochemicals, Al-Sisi says the armed forces participate with 1.5 to 2% from Egyptian economy. Al-Sisi says the state exerts the utmost efforts to support the participation of private sector and to present incentives to encourage the private investment. And also Al-Akhbar also have the same, is talking about the same issue, and we read the president inaugurates the 4th chlorine factory at Nasr Company for petrochemicals. Al-Sisi says the size of participation of the army in the economy do not exceed 2%. The president inaugurates the 4th factory to produce chlorine and soda. The production capacity reaches 50,000 tons annually and covers the needs of the country, and President Sisi inspects the production lines and exhibitions of Al-Nasr Company for petrochemicals. Again, Al-Masri Al-Yawm, I'm not sure if, oh yes, they talk about the same, doctor. It's the same.
Yes.
Yes. He says, I wish the percentage of the participation of the army was 50% from the economy. The president says, I shall not sleep until everything good is done. At all prospers, I mean, they mean here, I guess it doesn't come the right way. All prosperity come for the Egyptians. And from Nasr Company for chemicals, Al-Sisi says the percentage of participation of the army in the economy do not exceed 2%. The president says to the governors and ministers, no compromises in combating corruption. And we're going to go to a quick report to feature His Excellency President Sisi inaugurating Al-Nasr Company, and we'll come back to you with Dr. Mervat Madkour, so stay with us.
Egypt's Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said on Saturday that the military's economic activity accounted for no more than 2% of the country's output, dismissing allegations that the military could control as much as half of the economy. Speaking at an event celebrating the expansion of a chemicals company, Al-Sisi added that the military made up 1.5 to 2% of economic output, which he said was 3 to 4 trillion Egyptian pounds, 160 billion to 213 billion US dollars. That would put the military's share of economic activity at between 2.39 billion and 4.26 billion US dollars. Al-Sisi noted that the military paid taxes on all projects and that they were subject to regulations and auditing. President Al-Sisi has promised to revive the economy, which has struggled since a 2011 uprising scared away investors and tourists, Egypt's main sources of foreign currency. He has called in the military to assist in major infrastructure projects and with distribution of subsidized commodities to keep a lid on rising prices.
Welcome back, and we're still on with Dr. Mervat Madkour. How do you see the mega projects that are inaugurated even day after day by President Al-Sisi?
Yes.
How do you expect with
I'll
that
tell you one
rhythm?
thing.
I mean, with
Dina,
that pace
we have been speaking all the time, especially in our last program here last week. We have been speaking about altering the Egyptian economy from being an import consumer economy to a production exporting economy. How can you achieve that if you don't have any more companies that do have products that could be put internationally in the international market and could bring us our currency? We have private everything, which is not in favor of Egypt economically, especially that those who have bought these companies are escaping to pay taxes, okay? And that's why the people feel that the burden of the new economic reforms fall on their shoulders rather than on those who have money, okay? So now we are trying to revive those companies that have been spared from privatization. Certainly, chemical industry is very important, but it is an intermediate industry, which means that it goes into other companies' production process, and that's why developing it is very important. What I really don't like is the stress by the president that the army is only taking part in 1.5 or 2% of the economy. I'd rather have the army, as is everywhere, by the way, but we are allergic to wherever the army is. Though our army is doing its best to alleviate all the hazards that have been coming to us through the new reforms. And it was only the army who saved the low-income brackets by offering them foodstuff at a very reasonable price. Mind you, even in the United States, the one that is really granting private sector any projects is the army, okay? I don't know why are we allergic to that.
Why are you always constantly explaining ourselves?
Exactly, or giving a reason why, okay? And the private sector, mind you, in the 50s, what made Nasser go to the sequestration measures or the nationalization measures of 1961? It's the reluctance on part of the private sector to take part in the economic development process, which was really emphasizing industry in general, or the industrialization process in general, because we were an infant industry, we were an infant country in industry. We were, yes, we had intermediate or secondary step or the secondary stage in industry, but we wanted to move to the tertiary, which is heavy industrialization. But heavy industrialization, by definition, requires time. And the private sector, by its very definition, wants quick profit. And this is not achievable. And that's why in most countries, okay, even in China, when we compare ourselves to it, mostly it is governed by the state and not the private. The private sector is given a chance. But in the sector where it is a pioneer in, which is consumer industry, and it's nice that they really develop it and develop it well and emphasize a good level of production that meets the ISO. But we don't do that. And that's why our production, even in such industries, is not really brilliant or competitive in the international market. So let's hope that things will work at the end of the day. The president is sincere in his efforts. He wants really to develop the country. And these mega projects, their income or their fruition would not be reaped now or tomorrow. It's a long-term process, Dina. Development, by definition, it's a long-term process.
But
And
there are
we have
signs that
been-
we are hitting the right...
Definitely, definitely.
Do
Even
you agree that
the development
if
of the
signals do not
infrastructure,
show,
Dina?
But do you agree if signals do not show, then we think we reconsider our calculations again? If there are good signals, then we can continue.
It shows that
follow
we are
suit.
on the right path.
Okay.
Okay?
Back to Al-Ahram, front page we read, Egypt stresses its commitment in supporting the Palestinian cause. And Foreign Ministry says the complications of peace process require being realistic. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel will reassess its ties with the U.S. following adoption by Security Council of a resolution demanding an end to the Israeli settlement building. Still with the same issue, from Al-Akhbar page 3 we read, the Foreign Ministry reveals the reason behind withdrawing Egyptian draft resolution at the UN Security Council, and says, Shukri says, we are committed to supporting the Palestinian cause. Oraiqat says, Mr. Sa'ib Oraiqat, we have full trust in Egypt. And Israel's Prime Minister lashes out at President U.S. President Barack Obama, accusing him of a shameful ambush at the UN over West Bank settlements, and saying he is looking forward to working with his friend President-elect Donald Trump. Benjamin Netanyahu's comments came a day after the United States broke with past practice and allowed the UN Security Council to condemn Israeli settlements in the West Bank and East Jerusalem as a flagrant violation of international law. Although the U.S. opposes the settlements, it has traditionally used its veto power as a permanent member of the Security Council to block resolutions condemning Israel, saying that disputes between Israel and Palestinians must be resolved through negotiations.
Let me
this
just
has been taking a lot of debate over the
yes.
draft resolutions that were presented.
However,
but what are the real reasons? That's why people, I mean, don't you think that the real reasons should be announced?
Well, they already announced it.
Okay, if you like to.
The problem is, Dina, we just put emphasis on very on how things appear to be, not on the reality of things. Okay. Mind you, since 36 years, Israel has never been condemned internationally. 36 years. And Egypt got a word until half an hour prior to the voting. The U.S. had not decided what to do. Okay, so Egypt got a word that it might object or use the veto to hinder us from having this. But who has paid so far for the Palestinian cause or the Palestinian conflict? It's the Egyptians. What we are suffering from today economically is due to the fact that we have gone to 3 wars for the sake of the Palestinians. Okay, we have never.
That's true.
We have never deserted their cause. We have never, had hidden agenda anywhere. And definitely not in Palestine or with the Palestinian. We have never really given our back to their problem, and still we are paying for it. And nobody can deny that this resolution that has been adopted by New Zealand, Venezuela, Senegal, and Malaysia is originally based on the Egyptian original, you can call it, suggestion for a resolution of settlement. Mind you, Israel has always neglected any decision taken by the international community. It was never pro anything. It's doing what it wants. It's killing the Palestinians with no apparent cause, except just to make Israel just for the Jews. This is not a country that is based on religion. It shouldn't be like that. Okay? It should be for everybody. Yes, with a majority here, with a majority there, it's acceptable, as was the case with Lebanon, with a majority of the Maronite Christians, and it is okay. But the Palestinians, like the Israelis, they have the right to exist.
And to stop the settlements. Please.
Exactly. And what he is doing is really, getting around the problem by even inserting more and more barriers for the Palestinians to have an existence in Jerusalem.
Which is their homeland.
It is.
By the way.
And at the same time, we cannot deny that the international community somehow is trying to do its very best to insert what is going on in, with the Israelis.
We only have less than 30 seconds, so we're going to read the next, next and final one. Masri al-Yawm, front page we read the Italian ambassador to Cairo is to return at the beginning of January or resume his responsibilities, and protesters prepared to rally on the anniversary of the disappearance of Regini. How do you see I mean, that thing? Do you think this chapter has been closed with Italy?
I believe, look, Dina, the Egyptian side has presented everything that they've got over the regime case. We cannot deny that it was wrongly approached at the beginning, but then we did not know who really killed the guy, okay? So if we were doing it right, things would have been otherwise. However, it's not anymore a problem, I believe, and things will get better, especially that we both need each other in order to advance and to continue cooperation for the sake of both the Italian people and the Egyptian people.
Well, Dr. Mervat Madkour, at this final note, would like to thank you very much for coming over. Wishing you a beautiful day and a Merry Christmas. May you enjoy your night today.
Same to you.
And I guess this is where we end the Breast Digest for this morning in the breakfast show. But we're going to be resuming with our the rest of the segments. Right now, we're going to be back to you after the short break, so stay with us.
Be the first to know. The news live at the site of the event. Information on events as they are happening. If it's breaking news, it's Nile TV.